A man now living in the afterlife, who gave his name as Charles Morgan, came through in a Leslie Flint seance. He described his passing from his body from a stroke and being surprised and delighted when his deceased mother came to him. This is the fourth in a series of videos that contain narrations of Charles Morgan's descriptions of finding himself out of his body, his reunion with his mother and father, and what his new life in the afterlife is like. Hello, I'm Dr. R. Craig Hogan, President of the Afterlife Research and Education Institute and Seek Reality Online. I'm the author of 8 books with the evidence you will come to the end of this life, but you will never die. Leslie Flint was a direct voice medium in the 20th century. A direct voice medium has the remarkable ability to sit in a darkened room, and voices come from an ectoplasmic voice box that forms on the medium's shoulder. Today we have over 2,000 recordings of both famous and ordinary people who spoke for as long as 45 minutes to people on this side of life sitting in the room with Flint. This video is the 4th of 5 in which a man named Charles Morgan spoke with Leslie Flint and the 2 people who recorded the seance who were sitting with Flint. In this video, Morgan describes his reunion with his father in the afterlife. This is the narration of the words Morgan spoke, taken from the recordings of the Leslie Flint seance.
Anyway, we went in and there was my father sitting, as I always remembered him sitting of an evening, in the chair which he was so fond of, a big velvety chair. I don't think it actually was velvety, but it was something which looked like it. He would sit in the chair with very heavy legs, and it was a very impressive chair. It was always his chair, and we children never sat in it. I think once or twice I sat in it when he wasn't around. But there he was. But he looked so young and so virile, so as I remembered him as a young man, and there he was sitting, honestly waiting. And I thought to myself, oh, this is just too fantastic. It's like as if I've gone back 40 years and more to my youth. In the window, little pots of flowers Mother so loved, and I remember how she used to brush the leaves down in the window, I think it was, and she used to love those potted plants. She was always so fond of them. On the big circular table, there was this heavy, shabby old cloth thing. How we used to look forward to the meals and how we used to lay that table and put the cloth back afterwards and the potted plant. I remember the table so well, with its big carved legs like lion's claws, lion's feet. It was replica, you know, but so real, so beautiful. And yet there was something about it that had a glow. I couldn't even begin to describe it. Anyway, my father gave me a great welcome, put his arm around me and said, well, old chap, you've done it, you've done it. I thought to myself, done what? And I still couldn't get this idea into my head that I was dead. He said, come and sit down. Let's talk about things. So he said, what should we talk about? It's wonderful to see you. He said, I wanted to stay here and be here to welcome you when you died. I knew that Mother would be all right. Besides, Mother wasn't alone. I said, what do you mean Mother wasn't alone? Mother was the only one that came. He said, my dear boy, he said, don't be so stupid. You may not have seen them, but there were dozens of people there. I said, what do you mean dozens of people? I understand that it's easy to may not have seen the others because at the moment you're not in a position to see. You can only see that which you yourself make possible. But there are lots of other people there, wonderful people that you'll get to know that we should introduce you to, that will be able to tell you much more than even Mother and I can tell you. But what really matters now is for you to be at home and be comfortable and be happy and relaxed and not worry about all this nonsense that they call death. I said, but you know, you keep saying this business that I'm dead, but I'm not dead. He said, of course you're not dead, but the world thinks you're dead. And since they don't understand anything else, there's not very much you can do about it. He said, don't you realize that there's something very different about you? He said, well, look, come look in here. So I went with him and looked into what appeared to be a full-length mirror. Looking back, I remember that mirror so well. It always stood just in the top of the staircase, which I also thought as a child was a stupid place to have a mirror, because you all the time walk into it and bump into yourself. But for some reason or other, that mirror was always at the top of the staircase, and I realized that it was very nice for the neighbors, but at the time I remember Mother just stood there preening herself before she went downstairs to welcome the guests when they were arriving for a party. Anyway, I looked at myself in the mirror, and there I was, as I remember myself thinking, how could I stand looking so gaunt?
Charles Morgan was delighted to have a reunion with his father, proving he was still very much alive after his body had died. In the same way, you will come to the end of this life, but you will never die. Links to the other videos with Morgan describing his reunion with his mother and his life in the afterlife are in the descriptions below.